Board of Education is called to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mr. Acom? Here. Mrs. Schneider?
Here.
Mrs. Click?
Here.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Here.
Mr. Cebulski?
Here.
All right, we will start tonight's meeting with special reports and recognitions. Tonight we are recognizing two high school students as being Rotary Students of the Month. They are Harrison Mullen and Reagan Stock. May I have a motion for approval, please?
Moved.
Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Would Harrison and Reagan please come forward and get your certificates? Thank you so much. Congratulations. There you go, and then you'll just go to the podium.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hayes.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Mahalis and the Board of Education for allowing us to shine light on two of our amazing high school seniors here. We're going to start tonight with Reagan Stock, and I'll share a few of the sentiments expressed by some of her teachers, beginning with English teacher Mrs. Tony Taylor. She said, "Reagan lights up a room. Her magnetic personality, which is upbeat and inclusive, draws people to her. On top of her charismatic persona, she's a focused learner, determined to do well while improving herself. She's a true role model. Her desire to help others is witnessed in and out of school. It's no wonder that her Excel Tech business program peers voted her as their class CEO, and her peers at AHS voted her to be a senior class officer. She is a remarkable young lady who continues impacting those around her, improving every situation and environment." Social studies teacher Mr. Cucarola said, "I've had the pleasure of having Reagan in class over the last 2 years, both in U.S. government and AP Human Geography. Reagan is wise beyond her years. She is not only very intelligent and excels academically, but has an incredibly strong personality and leadership skills that allow her to take on any challenge that arises. Reagan is a wonderful representative of the Rotary Club as she demonstrates very strong communication and leadership skills that will serve her well when she enters the workforce." Math teacher Mr. Rakow said, "Reagan's enthusiastic participation is unmatched. She is willing to contribute to class in every possible positive way. She asks questions, answers questions, puts problems on the board, engages in discussion, collaborates with other students, asks for help when she needs it, and gives help when asked for. She embodies the idea that learning is social and makes the classroom a fantastic environment. I would like a Reagan in every class period, please." And finally, business teacher Mrs. Alicia Antall said, "Reagan is always willing to help out with whatever is needed in our yearbook class. She offers valuable feedback and communicates effectively when discussing topics as a whole yearbooks team. In addition, she serves and cares for others through her work with the ABC Club, and most recently assisted with the trick-or-treat event during our A time. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to Miss Reagan Stock."
Hi, I'm Reagan Stock, a senior at Aurora High School. I'm honored to be receiving Rotary Student of the Month. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about me and my 4 years of high school so far. I'm Vice President of the class of 2025, and I've enjoyed creating a sense of family within our class. I also love filling my time after school participating in our large selections of clubs like Euchre, Environmental, STARS, and ABC Club. Additionally, I'm currently CEO of Excel Tech's Beechwood Marketing Program. Our company is raising money for Northeast Ohio hospitals, facility dog, and therapy programs to provide emotional support to sick children and their families by selling sweatshirts and sponsorship packages to local businesses. I've also enjoyed helping others in any way I can. I spent a month of my summer between freshman and sophomore year on a volunteer trip working and learning about women-owned coffee farms in Costa Rica. This sparked my interest in volunteering, and I continue to enjoy volunteering through student organizations and outside of school. I've enjoyed many classes throughout my 4 years, but one stands out: speech class. Throughout this class, I formed meaningful connections with underclassmen that I still consider some of my favorite people. Although this class was only a semester long, it taught me lessons I will never forget, like speaking confidently, going out of my comfort zone, and balancing teamwork and individual responsibility. After high school, I plan to continue my education, majoring in marketing and finance at Penn State, University of Illinois, or Dayton University. I'd like to give a quick thank you to my wonderful teachers and family for the endless support and kindness they give to me each day. I would not be half the person I am without them. And lastly, a big thank you to the Rotary Club and its members and the Board of Education for this award, and for taking time to honor not only me, but all the outstanding students at Aurora. I'm fortunate to be part of such a strong community and schooling system that cares about its students. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Harrison Mullen. And we'll start with English teacher Mrs. Lindley, who said, "Harrison is a true leader. He engages fully, embraces empathy, and strives to continuously refine his skills in all areas. And he does all of this with a bright smile and welcoming demeanor. He is a valuable member of our AP Lit family." Spanish teacher and service learning teacher Mrs. Foster said, "Harrison is a proactive and responsible young man who I'm glad to have known for the last couple years. His ability to balance academics and extracurricular activities is admirable. He's been an active member of Interact Club the past 4 years, where he's attended so many meetings, and last year he spoke at the Greenman Greetings event early in the school year and represented our SAVE, which stands for Students Against Violence Everywhere Club. He also attended the Sandy Hook National event with Mrs. Foster last spring in North Ridgeville, and most recently he started the club Stop the Hate with Miss Connie Hillston. And finally, he's been an active participant in Rake and Run 3 out of the last 4 years." Then going on, Mrs. Taylor, she really couldn't contain herself. She had so many good things to say about Harrison. So she ended up sending me, she's like, "I just have to tell you all of the things through some of the aspects I wrote in his letter of recommendation." She said, "Harrison's leadership qualities, creative ideas, personable nature, and respect for others are apparent in his actions and words. Anyone in Harrison's presence will note his enthusiasm for learning and life and his ambitious nature. He leads by example both in and out of class. In our journalism class, Harrison's peers are fortunate to have him help with articles. His eloquent writing skills and approachable personality allow others to feel comfortable with him and accept his feedback. Outside of class, he's the senior class president, has been the class president since his freshman year. He excels in this role as he dedicates himself to making the most out of situations and is an active participant in activities that further bond his classmates. He's always present to decorate for school dances and is willing to give his time and energy to enhance experiences for others while making connections and building relationships. Additionally, he founded Stop the Hate Club, an organization that promotes inclusivity, limits discrimination towards individuals, and stresses the importance of being an upstander. He is committed to making a lasting impact at Aurora High School and wherever his future leads. And he'll do it too. He is just that type of person." Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Harrison Mullen.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Harrison Mullen, and I'm a senior at Aurora High School. I want to begin by thanking the Rotary and school board members for this award. I do not take this for granted, and I'm very grateful and humbled. Secondly, I want to thank Aurora High School for setting me up for greatness every single day and giving me the opportunity to even be considered for this recognition. Lastly, and this should go without saying, I want to thank my family, who is by my side every step of the way. I really owe it all to them. It's a special honor to be noticed by the Rotary Club. An organization that puts service over self is something I admire and strive to do myself. The Rotary Club is determined to build and strengthen the community, all of which I strive to do as president of my class. I've been lucky enough to have been voted president of my class all 4 years of high school, and even more lucky to have Reagan as my vice for 2 of those 4 years. Being president, I am an active member of Student Council. Through Student Council, we plan school dances, food drives, and encourage school spirit all year round. I am also an active member in the Interact Club and was recently inducted into the National Honor Society last year. Both organizations correlate perfectly with the standards of the Rotary Club. Over the years at Aurora, I have volunteered in various places and have enjoyed all of them. Some of my favorites include Interaction Day, which is held once a year at a different high school and is a place where different districts go to exchange ideas with each other. Another was the Students Against Violence Everywhere Convention, which was held in Ohio during my sophomore year. This convention was an amazing and powerful experience where we discussed different ways to prevent violence in schools. I will cherish these values and memories I have made through the club far past graduation. Just this past year, with the help of AP Language teacher Ms. Hilston, I began a new club at Aurora High School called Stop the Hate Club. It is a student-led organization that is dedicated to preventing discrimination and celebrating diversity within our community. Just recently, we were able to Zoom with students from Brazil who we have been contacting and exchanging cultural differences with. It was such a cool experience, and the students from Brazil were so excited to see us as we were to them. I can't wait to see where else this club takes us. In addition to these clubs, I have been a member of the cross-country team at Aurora for all 4 years. I really couldn't have asked for a better experience in that regard. I have formed relationships with teammates that will stand the test of time, and I am so grateful to have run for an amazing program. My plans for the future are obviously subject to change. However, one thing I know for certain is that I will be attending a university after I graduate. The university itself is yet to be seen, but I hope to study criminology and minor in journalism wherever I go. I really can't believe I'm graduating next year. I will forever be grateful for the community of Aurora. Consequently, Aurora High School for giving me the chance to make wonderful memories and teach me lifelong lessons, whether that be through sports, classes, or clubs. Once again, thank you to the Rotary Club for the recognition and your time. Have a great rest of your evening and a happy holiday.
Thank you, students. We always find it encouraging and inspiring to hear from you and to hear what the teachers have to say about you. And I'll wait till the pictures are done. That's okay. I would just add, I've gotten to know Reagan a little bit over the last few summers, and I can affirm that not only does she light up any room she goes into, she also is in charge of every room she goes into.
She also lit up Halloween. She was a stoplight.
That's funny. Well, congratulations. All right, next, we would like to recognize 2 teachers as having won grants from the Portage County Retired Teacher Group. And those teachers are Gretchen Jessel and Ashley Verholtz. I'd ask you to come up so we can shake your hand, and then Mr. Jim Montequilla will introduce you or talk about the grant, I guess.
Thank you, Madam President. My name is Jim Montequilla, and I'm with the Portage County Retired Teachers Association. We're a group of over 300 retired educators from the county here that are still giving back to the kids and to the teachers of Portage County. This is our 6th year that we have begun a program for the teachers. We have a teacher grant program, and it's designed to give money to teachers like these 2 young ladies here who have programs that they want to launch, but they don't have the funding for. And so this year, we're giving out $500 grants to each one of them to be spent on the programs that they've launched. The first one that we're giving out is to Gretchen Giselle from Miller Elementary. Hers is a educational program for exceptional students adapting. And our goal is to expand the bike program for exceptional students in a supportive environment during an adapted physical education session. It is for bike safety, and the grant money is for the purchase of a bike, helmet, and pedal kit. This is for Gretchen Giselle. So, Gretchen. And our second one this evening is for Ashley Verhose, also from Miller Elementary, and hers is for a Tony box for the classroom. I never heard of this before she made the grant proposal here. With the purchase of Tony boxes and characters, the goal is to increase literacy skills, vocabulary, comprehension with an interactive format, individually in a small group setting, and to make reading more enjoyable for students. This is for Tony boxes. It's for her. Now, I gave them each a certificate, but I didn't give them the money. The money goes to your treasurer, and I will be presenting that to him. He can't spend it any way he wants, but they can for her. So, congratulations, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, and we're a little out of order, I apologize, but now I need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Collison, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski? Yes. Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes. All right, congratulations to both of you. So now we'll just take a 30-second intermission if you all want to escape. The people who were just awarded, you're welcome to stay. It's up to you. Thank you. Okay, we had no one sign up to speak, make a comment, so we'll move on to the approval of minutes of the regular meeting of October 28th. May I have a motion for approval?
Second.
Are there any additions, comments, edits, anything to those minutes? All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mr. Cebulski? Yes. Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes,
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
minutes are approved as written. Next, superintendent's report.
All right, well, thank you. So one of our goals has always been to get the schools out into the community and the community into the schools. And we believe this is the best way to nurture those important school-community connections. So for this month, being that it's Thanksgiving month, November, I thought it would be appropriate to share our gratitude for the relationship that we have and to recognize a few of the school community connections that have taken place just this year. So starting with the first annual Layton Family Pancake Breakfast that was held in October, this event hosted up over 300 parents and community members who not only came for breakfast, but also had the opportunity to take a student-led tour of the Layton Trails, the Layton Gardens, and the dock. The Craddock staff held their annual Veterans Day celebration on November 11th. Veterans and their families filled the Craddock gym, filled half, I should say, of the Craddock gym, and then first and second graders occupied the other half of the gymnasium. Veterans from the Army, the Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard were honored and entertained with a few musical numbers from the kids. And speaking of musical numbers, the AHS Chamber Choir represented Greenman Nation at the Cleveland Cavaliers game by singing the national anthem. So this gave a chance for all of Northeast Ohio to see and hear a little bit of Greenman pride. And then more locally, the Harmon Student Council recently collected nearly 600 coats and blankets for their annual Coats for Kids collection, which benefits kids and families in need for Portage County. And then right here in Aurora, the AHS Interact Club held its annual Rake and Run event earlier in the month. And this is when we had approximately 26 students on a bus and 34 students in cars wake up early on a Saturday morning to help over 50 different senior citizen members of the Aurora community. And this is always a well-received service from the schools to the community. And that school community connections were further nurtured through the newly formed AHS Cybersecurity Advisory Council. So this council is composed of 16 individuals from local tech companies, universities, city representatives, and of course ACSC staff. So the group is collaborating to help support cybersecurity instructor Nick Cucarola design meaningful experiences in his class, including various challenges, guest speakers, and the potential internships or shadowing that's to come down the road. Some of these guest speakers, including ACSD parent Brian McDowell, who I have pictured up here, who works for University Hospital's Information Technology Department. He also not only took time to visit with the cybersecurity students, but also volunteers for this particular committee. We have also hosted Michael Hagee from the Federal Reserve, and he came to share his expertise on social engineering with our students. And of course, it is important to recognize the entire community who came together to help raise donations for the Layton Interactive Playground. This is one of the major contributors to this project is the Aurora Schools Foundation, and they've had a long history of working with the schools. So Aurora Schools Foundation, I'm not sure if you know, but they are actually celebrating their 30th year. And during that time, they've raised over $500,000 to fund innovative and imaginative grants that went beyond the school budget. So this year alone, their efforts raised $93,000 for the aforementioned Inclusive Playground, the Cybersecurity Program, and the All Kids Can Learn to Ride a Bike grant. In total, the Aurora Schools Foundation awarded 11 grants this year and 3 scholarships. And this figure doesn't even include their most recent fall grant cycle, where 6 different Aurora educators were awarded Aurora Schools Foundation grants for their classroom. So, these are not even all the examples from this year, but we're very appreciative of the partnership with the Aurora Schools Foundation and the Aurora community as a whole. These partnerships are not, formed accidentally, but have been intentionally nurtured over the years through our goals of getting the community into the schools and, of course, the schools out into the community. So just thought, again, for a November Thanksgiving, it's good to give thanks for the community that we're in and the connections we have. Any comments or questions for the board? Okay, and that's my
Thank you
part.
for that.
Yes.
That's good to be reminded of. Okay, do we go to Michelle next?
I think we're going to go to Paul and then Michelle.
Yep, I will go next. And as is seasonal, when it gets to November, it's time to talk about the Aurora High School Program of Studies. And the reason why that is we start early with that process, and Mr. Hayes and his team looking at different course offerings, potential new offerings, revisions, because we need to bring that to you this month in November so that it could be approved in December, because we start the scheduling process, especially at the high school and the middle school, in January, for the following year. So that's sort of the timeline of why we do it this time of the year. So you have a lot of information in your packet. You have a summary. You have the full program of studies. You actually have the resources from Paradigm on Cyber 2 and Cyber 3. So lots of things to look through. But I did want to take a little bit of time just to talk about some of the larger changes, be it structurally, be it courses, and just highlight a few things. So if you look at the slide there, and this is also in your packet, we do have a number of different revisions just to talk about. First of all, Cybersecurity 1, I know we did just add that last year, but it was the first time we've offered this course. So all we did was just change it slightly because it mentions, the new additions to the program. And then there's a course fee. So one of the philosophies of our cyber program is play, learn, perform, and we've learned more about what that means in terms of performance, and there are some competitions and those types of things that there's a little cost, so we do need to add a small fee. So that's really it for Cyber 1. For Integrated Math Block 2, so we have had this course for a long time, as long as I've been here, and even longer than that. It's essentially a geometry course, but it's the Math Block 2 course, but slightly integrated. We, both for Block 1 and Block 2, we essentially double up for our students. So these courses are designed to help those students that struggle with math. We plan to keep Block 1, and that's essentially the student has the integrated one for one period, then they've got a block for another period. We've contemplated for many years taking the Block 2 and actually getting rid of the second period. So the change would simply be that we still have integrated Math 2, it'd be called Concepts, still with supports, still with smaller class sizes, still potentially, with co-teaching arrangements and those types of things. It just would not be a second period that is required to be in that class, which we typically do scale back some of the supports as students get older in high school, Additionally, it frees up the students to take other classes, which is helpful, or potentially have a study hall. And then also helps us with our math department in terms of being able to offer other supports in other classes. So there's a variety of potential benefits. So the high school team and math team has been toying with this idea for 2 to 3 years and felt like it was time to pull the trigger and try that modification. So essentially that's the change with that class. Band, there's another class, that'd be our third revision. That's just really a language class. Band is unique because it is a class, but it's also an activity, and there's all sorts of summer obligations from band camp to evening practices, the Wednesday nights and all types of, concerts. So all this is just wording to really reflect what happens with band and the fact that there are higher expectations. So that's simply it. AP Music Theory, another revision, really just adding a workbook fee for a composition course book, which is just the best practice material for students to have just to compose music and write in that book. So another small one. Something new that we've done, we are proposing to archive a number of different classes. You can see some of the examples up there. Theory of Knowledge, International Business, Astronomy. We're not getting rid of them per se, but we just don't plan to offer them next year. They could still show up on transcripts and those types of things if students have taken them. The reason being is that we have a number of classes where we offer them every year, and the way the scheduling process works, students will sign up, but then we have not, and this has been a multi-year trend, we won't have enough demand to fill those classes. They'll get blocked out of other electives, but then we have to go back to them and say, we're going to have to cancel this class, and you have to go pick something else. So it's just really not efficient for us to have these courses on there when we're just showing multiple years of a trend of not actually being able to run those courses. So that's the plan for next year. They're not gone. They are archived. We could offer them again if we feel like there's the right time or demand for them. So that's a new, course of action that we've taken with some of these classes. So those are some of the revisions. Moving on to the next slide. These are our biggest changes, and should not be a surprise for anybody on the board. We talked about this last year, being a multi-year commitment with adding on to our cybersecurity program. So we will be adding level 2 and level 3. Level 2, after the intro year course with level 1, the biggest, change with this one is it's really focused on the Certification Plus and all the associated skills with that, so students should be prepared to actually be certified in that and take that test, by the end of Cyber 2. Obviously, their skills will get stronger in other areas, but it is aligned with that. And then moving on to level 3, which could be the same year or the following year. This is really, as it says up there, a capstone experience, more internship-based, more specific to one aspect of cyber because it is such a vast field. So you're really focusing on, okay, what is my area of interest? Focusing on that, doing an internship, having a mentor and those types of things. So those are the, 2 larger offerings. And obviously, as we continue to grow the cyber program, I put on there, I do want to obviously increase that community partnership and support, which will require, host sites for interns, also mentors. So like Mr. Roberto just talked about, that's part of the reason why we have that education, or that cyber advisory board, to have those connections and nurture those connections. So those are, some of our larger changes for this year. Obviously, every single year, when we go through the process, we have a set amount of staffing and budgetary constraints. So it'll be based on student demand, and some courses will run and some won't. But these are the major changes for next year. So any questions on the cyber or any other revisions or anything like that? And obviously, if you need more time, we can do questions next month prior to approval if you'd like to take that out as well.
Do you find that the cybersecurity classes are filling up and is it becoming more popular?
I mean, this year it's definitely popular. We have 3 sections. We have roughly 60 students involved. I will be really curious to see what it looks like next year when we add 2 and 3. So is it just a section of 2 associated with that section of 3? And we have to be creative too, because it could be a 3-year sequence, but we've also talked about potentially if a student is really, they're really passionate about cyber and they want to dedicate a part of a day to it, they could actually have let's say two periods in the morning where they would finish Cyber 2 in the first semester, let's say if they were a senior, and then they could do that internship piece in the morning or in the afternoon. So we'll have to be really creative with that scheduling when we get there this spring. But I know we won't know those numbers. Mr. Hayes will probably let us know those numbers about February of this year, and then we'll kind of know where we stand. But it has certainly been a huge hit so far.
It's exciting, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Then, Mrs. Nysen, you're up.
Yes, Mrs. Nysen, I have this for you, if you'd like to control this.
Thank you to the board for having me this evening to talk a little bit about Layton's building goals. I am a talker, so I'm going to work really hard to be brief. So to kick things off, every year we start with our building theme. And a building theme basically kind of keeps us all together as a team, as a unit, and it stems from our strategic vision of nurturing our roots. So we talk a lot at Layton about growing our roots and this idea of building community. And that really goes along with our bigger district goal with culture, but also our ongoing building goal with culture. And we talk about building community through making connections. So making connections with our parents, our students, our colleagues, and also being intentional and purposeful with that. So this kind of runs throughout my weekly newsletters with staff, and also in communications that we have with each other on the top of our PLC notes, that just every interaction is an opportunity to build connections, to share a story, to cultivate shared understanding, to build teams. So we're working to really develop that capacity within ourselves, our students, and others, and really tying that into our 6 competencies as well. So from there, that's our theme this year. We have 4 main ideas that are aligned to our district and curriculum goals, and that is the focus on the whole child, school and community connections, ongoing learning communities, and then learning as a process. So thinking about the focus on the whole child, let me go back there. We have a big emphasis this year and last year, because it's always a work in progress, it's MTSS and PBIS. So those are 2, lots of letters, alphabet soup, as we say in education, multi-tiered systems of support. And we're continuing to use that process to really refine being very diagnostic in our approaches, and also working on gap closing. So when you look at the report card and you see that gap closing area, this is an area where with MTSS within our schools, we can help to bridge some of those gaps and really dig deep into our data and look at where students are performing and how we need to continue to unlock their potential. If we see deficits or gaps, we apply research-based interventions and then progress monitor that for a certain number of weeks, and then come back to the table as a whole team, very much a problem-solving team, problem-solving approach to have diagnostic conversations to continue to move our students forward. So that is something we're continuing to focus on our 2A, our classroom-based interventions, and how we're supporting our teachers with those things, and then also our Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports. That ties in nicely to the other umbrella that MTSS encompasses. So we have the academic arena, but then we have the social emotional umbrella. So how we're creating those nurturing environments for kids to really flourish and really nurture those roots. That's where our PBIS endeavors come in. And we feel very lucky to have the state has recognized us at a silver and a gold level. And each year we go through what's called the TFI, or Tiered Fidelity Inventory. That's almost like a building-wide audit. And it looks at each tier of support and how we are helping students through interventions, how we're helping them systemically in the classroom, and gives us a really good gauge on what are the exemplary practices we should be employing. So we continue to grow, especially with our Tier 3 support, so our highest need students, in terms of what they need and how we can continue to learn and grow in that area. Oh, where is that? Oh, there we go. I got 2 zealous there. Sorry, I don't know why it's not.
You need to go backward.
Yeah, it's
Can you
not.
backward? No, it doesn't do that.
I think the clicker's not. Okay. as we're trying to kick that up, the next bucket there is school and community connections. And as Mr. Roberto said, bringing the schools into the community and the community into the schools is really important to us. We were very excited about our first ever pancake breakfast on a Saturday, which was awesome. We had over 300 families come and join us, and what the proceeds went to helping to create the sustainability for our outdoor learning spaces. So we now have a beautiful campus that we just weren't tapping into all the time. So now we have a beautiful dock that we're using, a garden, the outdoor learning trail, and we have outdoor classrooms, and it's been just awesome to see the curriculum come alive through using some of those outdoor learning spaces. We also have invited the community, different community members, and the mayor comes in. We have community readers. We have Laps for Layton coming up, which is really neat in February. We have a STEAM night, so we started that with 3rd grade last year, and we're going to continue that with 4th and 5th, bridging on some of our work with our inquiry units. Then we also have partnered with our VA, which we're very excited about, our VA folks who are going to be coming in and helping with our 4th graders. We're going to do a flag kind of program, and it's just pretty awesome that they came in and presented it to us, and next year we're also going to be working with them, so we're excited about that. And who can forget our DayQ's Celebrity Night, because the kids always look forward to that in January. Thank you. So that's a little bit about community, the schools and the community. Then our next big bucket, let's see if it'll work. Oh, you got it. Is ongoing learning communities. So with this is a really big focus for us, is also on PLCs, our professional learning communities. That's how we really can help support driving instruction. The teachers have that time to collaborate with each other and really continue to look at how we're being diagnostic, creating student-centered learning environments, incorporating our design specs, our strategic vision, and we focus a lot on talking about our pedagogy, our assessments, and our instruction. So we're continuing to develop that staff dispositional leadership in that area. And then something we're really excited about is our inquiry-based approach to science and social studies. So that's something we started a few years ago, and the teachers have really evolved with that and created units of inquiry. So as we go, we continue to work through that process. And inquiry means basically, if you've ever heard of PBLs or project-based learning, it's a great way to embed authentic assessments. So teachers are doing a lot where students have hands-on instead of just learning about science and social studies facts. The kids are engrossed in creating situations in the classroom and simulations that help them to learn those things. So they might hold a city council meeting and the students know those roles and they're learning about city council members and the Constitution through like hands-on embedded practice. So it's very cool. It's something we've evolved, something we're really proud of. And then lastly, learning as a process. So our 3-year, we've created what's called a 3-year OST trend data. So we continue to kind of use that data to look at what are areas that we're doing really well, celebrating those successes as a staff, and then identifying areas that we want to continue to grow in. So utilizing OST data, we have OST checkpoints. I know Paul's talked a lot about that too in different meetings, and continuing to look at what are we doing very, very well, and then how can we help our students in certain areas where we're noticing there's some needs. So our 2 areas this year are writing, specifically purpose and elaboration. We're using the RACI strategies to support that. And then in math, we're really working hard with our coaches and also looking at our frameworks and how we can continue to support teachers on a UDL level to continue to look at our instruction overall and then how we're supporting students throughout TSS. So those are some of the big areas. And then lastly, so that's kind of a little synopsis of our 4 building goals and the specifics, but surrounding all of that, the heart of it all is our kids. So keeping our kids at the center of all we do is something we always talk about at Layton. Thank you. Are there any questions?
No.
Okay.
Who clapped? Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. You're welcome.
We'll clap for you. Okay, Mr. Volleson, try to top that.
It's going to be tough. Thank you, Mrs. Mahalis. This evening, I have 3 resolutions for your consideration, and I'll start with the resolution for the financial statements for the month of October. And in October, our expenditures exceeded revenues by a little over $3 million, decreasing our general fund cash balance to $20.7 million 4 months into the fiscal year. Revenues were about 1.3% greater than projected, and expenditures about 0.8% greater. October's kind of a small revenue month, so not a lot going on there, but we did receive our property tax rollbacks and homestead exemption for Summit County, $94,157 for the rollbacks, and another $5,891 for homestead. On the expenditure side, everything's pretty much running to plan. Personnel, benefits, and purchase services are kind of running slightly above our currently projected amounts, so we're going to keep an eye on those, and we've updated them. It'll kind of tie in with the forecast, so this will update what we're figuring for the rest of the year. So thus far for the fiscal year, revenues about $270,000 greater than projected. Expenditures about $170 greater than projected. So we still have a favorable variance of a little over $100,000 4 months into the fiscal year. And that is Exhibit D1.
Wait, that was exhibit what?
D1.
D1, okay. Resolution to approve financial statements and reports. May I have a motion, please?
Moved.
Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Volleson? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Acom?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
Okay, the next resolution, D2, is the resolution to approve our 5-year forecast, which was included in your packet. There's like 29 pages. So I'm not going to go through 29 pages of stuff right now, as it'll probably take us a good period of time. But what I've passed out to everybody is a little handout that says Financial Forecast Key Indicators and Analysis. So if you take a look at that, the first page on there just kind of shows you for the year, just, you know, from a 30,000-foot view, our projected general fund revenue for this year is nearly $52 million. So our, you know, we're a fairly large budget, and it grows as we keep moving on. Our expenditures are projected to be a little over $50 million. So we'll be in the black this year to the tune of about $1.8 million. So that's good. That'll increase our bottom line for fiscal year 25. Take a look at the next page, kind of shows how the money's come in. So you could see of all our dollars, almost $40 million are from our local property taxes. 76% of our revenue is locally funded. Real estate is $37,839,000 in the public utility personal property, nearly another $2 million. So that's the biggest part, obviously, of our revenue. State funding is about $9.5 million, which amounts to about 18% of our revenue. Fair School Funding Plan, that is the state payments that we receive twice a month, about $5.35 million. Restricted is another $457,000. The biggest part of that is going to be your catastrophic costs, which are for excess costs that we spend on our special education population. So we receive that once a year. Typically, we won't get that until June. And then finally, we have the state share of the local taxes, about $3.7 million, and these are your rollbacks, your homestead, those types of things that we receive both through Portage County and Summit County through the state of Ohio. All other revenues, another $2.7 million. Things like that are fees, our interest that we earn on our investments, those types of objects. But you can see that's about 5%, so that's a small part of the money that we do bring in. Go to the next page. These are our expenditures. And as you can see, personnel is 88% of everything that we spend. That's between salaries and benefits. This year, our general fund salaries are going to be about $30,700,000. Benefits, about $13,300,000. So you could see, you know, we're a people business, and you can see that's where our dollars are going. Purchase services is our next biggest expenditure, a little under $2.9 million. Things covered in there are going to be your utilities, electric bill, your gas bill, your water bill. Our nurses that we pay for through the ESC are in there. So that's our next biggest expenditure. And then from there, everything else amounts to a little over $3 million. So between supplies, cleaning materials, fuel for the buses, capital expenditures to repair things, you see that's a small cost. And that adds up to our total budget. So if you go to the next page, you can kind of see how things are moving over a period of time here. This year we're going to be in the black. 26, we will also project to be into the black, but then in 27, we're going to start expending more than what we're bringing in. So you can see our cash balance will start to fall at that period in time. We could turn to the next page. The forecast is all based on assumptions. And what our current assumptions are now, the revenue's easy. Right now, we have no levies. We have a couple of renewal levies that we do have to pass. Our state revenue has been pretty flat for the last, bunch of years. So we don't expect that to really change too much. Expenditures is where you're going to see the biggest amount of increases. In this projection, we have built in adding 2 additional new teaching positions every year, so that's built part of this. Now, we do not have increases for staff built in after this year. Starting for next fiscal year, that's a negotiations year. So AEA contract will be up come this July 1. The OPSI contract expires at the end of December of 25. So step increases are included in here, but not the any base increases. So what you see on the previous page is you could see we kind of have a downward trend what our cash balance is going to be. And that's a big thing in looking at projections is what's your trend? Is it going up? Is it going down? But it's going to go down quicker than this depending upon what the outcome of all the negotiations ends up being. And that's obviously something we'll talk about as we get closer, what parameters we're looking at there. A big item also that we have is our benefits. Right now, we're projecting a 10% increase in our health care benefits over the next 4 years. So obviously, if those would come in a little lower, being that that's such a large cost, that would be extremely helpful to the forecast and to the financial stability of the district. So we'll see how that goes. Right now, we get monthly reports through the consortium, and our benefits are still running high for the consortium as a whole. So things aren't looking like they're going to be real low coming up, at least in the next year. But we'll see as time goes on. So when you look at this other page, you can see your annual change in revenue. Historically, going back the last 5 years, you can see a 4.47% increase. That increase is kind of higher just because we did pass a 5.9 mil levy back in 23. So that is the biggest part of why you're seeing that increase. And you could see what we're looking at moving forward is only about a 2.5% increase. And tied into that will be what we pick up this year on the reappraisals on our inside millage. Again, all the voted millage, the millage will decrease to give us the same amount of money, but we will pick up some dollars on our inside millage. When you look at the expenses, again, historically, over the last 5 years, it's about 4.21%. Right now, we have it projected at 4.35 without including any base increases. So it'll most likely be higher than that, unless, again, of course, benefits come in a lot lower and depending upon what is negotiated in the upcoming agreements. If you go to the next page, days cash on hand. One thing we always look for, we try to have 60 days cash on hand, which is 2 months. So right now, again, with this forecast without any of the other increases, through 2029, we're at 67 days, so we're in pretty good fiscal condition. This year we'll be at 114, and next year up to 117 before we start our downward trend. So again, right now we're solid financially, but we'll see as things progress because we're looking at moving it to a downward trend. And finally, the last page is just kind of the full-blown report. So you can see every different category of what we're looking at for the increases, whether it be in revenue and/or expenditures. And you'll see the bottom line is this year we're looking at a fund balance at the end of the year of a little over $15 million. And by 2029, we're looking for that to fall to $10 million. So the trend is a decrease in that. But again, we monitor this and we'll see as things progress. We do this twice a year, so we'll be coming back again in May with an update on this forecast, and again, obviously, next November and so on and so forth. So that's kind of a quick summary of the five-year forecast. So I don't know if anybody has any questions that I could answer.
I see you said 2 additional teaching positions per year.
Correct.
That's the way it is. I thought I heard you say something different, but that's.
Yes, no, it's 2 per year is what we've been speaking with Mr. Roberto and Dr. Milsatich, and with the anticipated as enrollment will move. That is what they have determined. And sometimes it's, but these are new positions, so this doesn't mean that, well, we have an additional 3rd grade and 1 less 2nd grade, so these are new spots.
Okay, Exhibit D2 is a resolution to approve the state 5-year forecast. May I have a motion, please?
Move. Second?
Are there any questions for Mr. Volleson? All right, then please call the roll.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Okay, and the last resolution, D3, is a then and now statement, and this is to make payment for, this individual was the soccer team anchor, and she had purchased all the different supplies and whatnot for the soccer team throughout the season, but didn't put a purchase order in place until after the season. So she had all the receipts and everything, so as far as that goes, that checked out, but without a purchase order, I need board approval because it's over $3,000 to make payment to this person.
Okay. All right, may I have a motion, please?
Moved.
Chair seconds. Any comments or questions? All right, then please call the roll.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
All right, resolutions are all approved. Thank you for the summary and the analysis.
You're welcome.
And we'll move on to new business now. First, we have a resolution to accept gifts and contributions, Exhibit E1A. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
I will read through these. Aurora Flores donated $500 to the hockey program. Two Ventures LLC donated $500 to the hockey program. Robert Holes donated $50 to the tennis program. Mr. and Mrs. Bates donated $250 to the tennis program. Ms. Jennifer Biggs donated $15 to the tennis program. Mr. George Paulos Limited donated $50 to the tennis program, and the Aurora One Fund donated $500 to After Prom. Anything other than thank you to everyone for their donations? All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Sobolski?
Yes.
All right, next we have 7 personnel resolutions, and I'll take them together, if that's okay with everyone. I'll read through them first. Exhibit E1B1 is a resolution to accept resignations. Exhibit E1B2 is a resolution to employ support staff substitutes for this school year. Exhibit E1B3 is a resolution to approve the introductory appointment of support staff. Exhibit E1B4 is a resolution to award supplemental activity contracts to district personnel. Exhibit E1B5 is a resolution to award supplemental activity contracts to non-district personnel. Exhibit E1B6 is a resolution to terminate the employment of a support staff member. And Exhibit E1B7 is a resolution to approve the reclassification of a classified staff member. May I have a motion, please?
Moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions about any of those? All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Sabulski?
All right, resolutions are approved. Exhibit E1C is a resolution to approve policy EBBA, which deals with first aid and the automated external defibrillators. May I have a motion for approval, please?
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Roberta, do you just want to say anything about
Yeah,
this?
this is, you had a chance to kind of review this prior to last month, and it's just meeting the state law that's in place that requires AEDs in all of the buildings in all of the district. This was already established, and then ask us to also to set up teams that are trained. We have, all of our staff are trained on the AEDs through our public school works, but then we'll have specific team, like emergency response teams, that will go through training once those are established by the end of this year.
Okay. Are there any questions? All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes,
Mr. Sabulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
resolution is approved. Exhibit E1D is a resolution to approve the 25-26 school calendar. It was revised and explained to us. May I have a motion, please?
Move.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments about it? All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Sabulski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
All right, calendar is approved. Exhibit E1E is a resolution to approve the purchase of a zero-turn mower. May I have a motion, please?
Moved.
Second.
Do you want to explain what you said?
Yes, yeah, so we have budgeted this for the fiscal year, and we're waiting for the right time and hoping that our older lawnmower could make it through the summer, and it did. But now that we're at the end and these are actually on sale, you could say basically they're for a little bit better price. All of these came in under what we had originally budgeted for, and so we wanted to kind of strike and purchase this now so that we can hit the ground running next year.
Any questions? All right, Mr. Volleson, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Sabulski?
Yes.
All right, under discussion items, we have the high school program of studies, which we will look at in preparation for next month. Any questions about it right now? Okay. And then board items. I know you have a report for us?
Yes, yes. So Molly and I attended the OSBA Capital Conference. That was November 10th through November 12th. And we spent about 11 hours all 3 days during the different learning sessions. And most of them covered, community engagement, increasing communications, different committees that the board can form. They had several different ideas about that different districts do as far as ways to increase community engagement, specifically reaching those the community members that don't have students within the buildings, and that's one of the biggest challenges that I think everybody had stated. And then let's see. Other ideas for board action in the future would be self-assessments that the board can do, so we can establish goals and then assess how we're doing against those goals and evaluate, see if we need to modify those goals. And from that, there was also a mention of a board member handbook, which I know that we had seen before, so it's something to consider. So definitely a lot of ideas for some future working sessions.
Okay.
Looking forward.
Yeah, just to kind of go off of that, just a lot of ideas that we as a board could potentially help with the community engagement and outreach, and how we can potentially take steps moving forward to showcase the district, have a presence in the community, and I think we would love the opportunity to be able to have working sessions
Okay.
soon as we're looking in the future to potentially what our next steps forward are after November's election, and trying to figure out where we can best make the most of it.
Okay, all right, so we'll be in touch with setting that up for work session. Okay. Okay, and then Mr. Roberto, you had something too.
Yeah, so in the notes, I had mentioned to you that I was going to just get your thoughts on if, certainly you've heard feedback from the administrative team about the bond issue, and then the citizens community group that presented last month on that. But I wanted to see if the board wanted us to pursue getting a survey together that would not only go out to our parents, but we would probably use the citizens group as well to help get that out to the community as a whole. As Jen mentioned, about 70% of the community doesn't have kids in school. So that would be sort of the goal if we did that. But I guess I wanted to get your thoughts on to pursue that, not to pursue that. What are your thoughts? Because would you find it valuable for us to do that so that it to inform your decisions for, we looked at those 4 potential options, going forward.
Do you have an idea of what kind of questions would be on the survey already?
We have some together. We kind of run it by the board to get your thoughts prior to sending that out. But yes, we've got it. One thing is we know that we want to make it shorter rather than longer, and then provide opportunities for open-endedness, because there'll be things on there that we wouldn't necessarily think of that you can kind of collect through an open-ended piece.
The survey we did the first time, who did it go to?
Well, in the very, very beginning, it was our parents, and that was, should we pursue, this was 3 years ago, should we pursue looking, to the potential for potential new construction. And then, Rachel, I don't know how many folks you had on your response survey. Do you happen to remember off the top of your head? Because ours, we had a little over about 1,100 respond, but they were all parents at the very beginning, and then I don't know from yours. Mm-hmm, Okay. Okay.
Did you say?
100, she
Yeah.
said 100 responses? 100. And in a community our size, that's considered statistically significant.
But did you say we had 1,100 people?
Yeah, this was in the very beginning, like this was the first survey, should we pursue that step? And it was, I could go back and look for sure, but off the top of my head, it was right around 1,100.
And that was
Yeah.
through mostly parents?
Yes, that was,
Like through
Was
Final
that Final
Forms?
Forms?
yeah, it was through Final Forms and posted on our website, but I couldn't tell you how many, it was anonymous, so I couldn't tell you how many people didn't have parents, and it wasn't,
The proposed survey
Yeah.
would be sent to the larger community.
that would be the idea. Yeah, we would shoot to go through Final Forms, and then also we'd utilize this Citizens Committee for Quality Schools group to do that, because they've got the wider net out in the community.
We can only directly send it to folks on Final Forms, which is our parents, but we're hoping through the grassroots campaign and the contacts that they've made previously, if we leave it available on our website for a couple of months and really try to be active in getting responses from the community, the goal with that survey would be to try to reach a greater amount of that 70% to get a sense of where we stand and what we should do moving forward.
Well, we had a good report. I mean, we know why people didn't vote for it, pretty much. People, according to Alyssa's report.
We have that feedback to her, right? We have not, we have that feedback. We haven't actually done a survey, but yes, we do have the feedback she received.
And I think even if some of the responses give some of the same ideas, I think it would be a good step to be able to show that we did reach out beyond just the families in the district, and then attempt to validate some of those thoughts that were out there.
And a formal effort
Yes.
to do that is probably the best way to go about
I think it also might be helpful if one of the questions asked the community members, you know, we are struggling with capacity, what would you vote for? What would you stand up for?
Yeah, that open-endedness
Yeah.
to it, yeah, sure.
In terms of building project or money or both? Like millage?
Both.
Okay.
Well, one thing we learned is that what people want are not what they're willing to pay for. So we have to figure out
That's
the
true.
questions so that, you know, we're trying to get to the bottom of this. We don't want to ask, do you want a new school, or what are your ideas for more space? We have to find out if they're going to pay for it. So I feel like we should lay low for a little bit longer. I don't know if you were thinking of doing this before the midterm break.
So, yeah, first of all, whatever the board decides, open
Yeah.
to it. But what I was looking at is, sooner than later, it was where I was going because it's fresh on people's minds still. But what my goal would be to work on it for the next week, have questions to you by not this Friday because it's the holiday, but the following Friday, so December 6th, let you take a look at it, and if you thought it was good, then we were going to keep it up for, as Paul alluded to, about 2 months. Send it out, and then also keep it on our website for about 2 months, and maybe come back in January, at the end of January, and look at it, you know, the data.
And how would we reach the people who aren't?
Mostly through taking advantage of Rachel's group, as well as keeping it on our website and driving people to there. But they have a list that goes beyond the community that they can access through Facebook, I think, and things like that. Yeah. Any other questions? So what I'm hearing is I'll get something together, and on December 6th, that'll be my goal to get it to you. It won't be a long survey, because I think, again, shorter will get more people participating and responding, but try to make it in such a way that it'll be able to collect as much, useful information. So when you get a chance to see it, then we can get feedback and then try to get it out maybe the following week or so. Okay.
Did you have anything that you wanted to add? No? Okay. All right, are there any other board items? All right, may I have a motion for adjournment then?
So moved. Second.
All right, Mr. Vellison, please call the roll.
Mrs. Click?
Yes.
Mr. Akam?
Yes.
Mrs. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Cebulski? Yes. Mrs. Mahalis?
Yes. Meeting is adjourned.